Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about pricing, estimating. We're doing two of these patio slabs you see right here, one on each side of this concrete floor. Now the concrete floor you see is actually going to be a pool house, so they did a frost wall under it, and then we came in, formed up around the frost wall, poured the concrete floor. I believe that's in a previous video if you want to check that out. And then this patio right here and the one on the other side you're going to see here just shortly after, a little bit later in the video, is basically an extension of the pool deck patio we'll be doing the very next day right after this. So today you're going to get to see us do these two pool patios. We're working for the pool guy here today. The pool guy owns all his own excavation equipment. He comes in, he kind of strips the site of all the loam and the trees and everything, and then he does all his gravel work. Now here's what we're using for forms today on this side of the slab, these poly meta forms. If you want to check them out, they're pretty cool. That's why I point them out to you. We use the rigid ones today, so these are basically like a 2x4. They got one size of 2x6s, and then they also have flexible ones which we use around pools a lot. We use for curved sidewalks and stuff that are really nice too. So make sure you check them out. Metalforms.com is where you can check them out. Now we're getting the 4 inches of concrete here for the patio. Again, basically just stuff to put their lawn furniture on and stuff like that. We got wire mesh reinforcement. You can see I'm running the chute. I'm pulling up the wire as I'm pouring it out of the concrete out of the chute. So we're getting a lot of concrete up under the wire with all the rocks that are in the concrete mix. Even walking back on the concrete doesn't push that wire back down to the bottom. You can trust me on that. I've done it my whole life. And then we use a 4,000 PSI concrete for all our exterior concrete up here in Maine. It has air entrainment in it. It's got water reducer in it. It's actually got fiber mesh in it too for reinforcement. So double reinforcement here today. And we'll be putting a broom finish on this. Most of the exterior concrete we do has either a broom finish or we stamp it. And they decided just to go for a broom finish on this patio. A broom finish is basically half the price of our stamp concrete, so it's a lot less money to do a broom finish. Even though this complete concrete patio, the pool house, the two patio slabs we're doing today, and the pool deck patio is going to be a lot of money. I'll tell you just how much at the end of the video. Now we set up a laser. That's if you're wondering how we set all these grades. We set up a laser, rotating, self-leveling, rotating laser. It's actually from DEWALT. I have a link for that down below if you want to check it out. And that's how we set all our grades. So we snapped a chalk line on this part right here in the front where Darren's magging the edge, and then in the back, we use the laser with metal pins. And these forms have actually got a pretty cool like wedge system where you can just wedge the height using their clamps right to the metal pin. So that sets up really fast. One guy can do it actually really quick, even with the laser stick. So those are all set to grade. They're sloping away from this pool house a little bit. And this is basically what we do. We'll set them right to grade. We'll mag float the edges to have like a wet pad to go by as we screed. And it doesn't get much simpler than that as far as we're concerned. And this is our basic process. So this is about 16, I believe it was 16 or 17 feet wide by 20 feet. And we decided to do these two separately from the pool just because of the way things got set up. The timing, getting the concrete trucks, being able to get a pump truck, all that kind of stuff played into it. Otherwise, we probably could have poured these two and the pool deck patio all the same time. But as it worked out with just being able to get enough concrete and scheduling the pool guy, we had this day to get these two poured and work on getting the pool patio set up, which is actually quite a bit of work in itself because we got to form that coping around the inside of the pool, and then we got to set up all the forms on the outside also. So we have a 14-foot screed. This one's 14. The patio's a little bit wider than that. So what we're doing is We're shrinking it in a little bit so we have enough pad to go by so we don't have to pass that 14-footer back and forth. That makes it a little bit easier to screed. And then I'm also going to show you the finishing here at the end. And again, if you want to learn about how to do any of this stuff, you know, forming, pouring concrete like we do, finishing, broom finishes, you can join the Concrete Underground. I got a link for that. I do all my concrete training videos are in there. Or if you just need to do a slab, like a basic slab like this for a garage, a shed, maybe a broom finish patio, you could just get my concrete slab course that has all the details in there about what you need to do to get a slab done just like this. Alright, so here's how we screed. Again, I teach you how to screed like this, although this does take some practice to be able to kick the way I'm kicking right there and not stop and just keep moving backwards. That takes a little bit of practice, but you don't have to kick screed like we do in order to get this down. You could pull it 3 or 4 times, stop, set back, pull it 3 or 4 times, stop, set back. The key is, if you can see that, I'm watching the edge of my screed as I screed, and I'm leaving a line. You can see that line by the edge of the screed. I'm leaving on that pad that we magged previously. And I'm not really digging in really deep. I'm just what I call scoring that line in the surface. That means that's right where I want to be with the screed. My concrete's flat or level or whatever you want to call it. If you don't leave a consistent line like that, or if your line is really deep and then not so deep in areas, then you're going to have some humps and dips in your slab, and that's not what you want. So that's kind of what you're looking for right there. Then Darren's going to bow float that. I'll show you some bow floating on this slab right here at the end. Again, there's me yanking up the wire, getting the concrete underneath the wire. We could put chairs under this too, I guess. A lot of guys will chair this up. Nothing wrong with that. But we found just pulling it up, getting all those rocks under it, that prevents it from going back down to the bottom. And if this slab is, we'll score this, we'll saw joint cut this after we get done brooming it. We'll hang out for an hour or so and then saw some joints in this instead of putting grooves in it today with a hand tool. So if it does ever want to crack, we find that 90 some odd percent of the time it cracks right in those saw joints. I mean, that's not 100% guaranteed, neither is a hand tool joint, but most of the time it'll do that just from shrinkage. And then the wire, what the wire does is it helps hold that crack together tight. And then the fiber mesh in there too, that helps with like some shrinkage cracks on the surface, some surface cracking, stuff like that. So combining both of them together, we found works pretty good for us. As you can see, we use just 2x4 forms on this side. And basically the difference is those metaforms, they kind of just connect together. You connect those together, so you can put 2 12-footers together in a matter of seconds. With 2x4s, if you need more than, let's say you got a 12-foot 2x4 and you need 16 feet, well then you got to scab on a 4-footer or a 5-footer or whatever, and then you got to screw it all together. So that's a little bit of a difference right there. It takes a little bit longer to get your distance unless you just buy a 16-foot 2x4. But as you can see, either way works good. If you don't have those metaforms, then you just form something up like this with 2x4s. And yeah, 2x4 is only 3.5 inches, but we just lift it up off the ground a little bit, and then we pull some backfill up against the back side of it. That's how we get our 4 inches there when we only use 2x4s. Not a big deal at all. So again, if you watch Luke here, Luke's in kind of like the orange reddish type of shirt. Watch the end of his screed. He's leaving that line, a consistent line, all the way down the edge of that magged edge, and that's how you know you're screeding just right. So in total, I believe this was around 8 yards of concrete. we called, you know, when I call an order concrete, I usually call quite a bit in advance because we have, here I am both floating. We have jobs like this set up every single day. So we're pouring concrete basically every day. So I need to call these guys and get jobs lined up. I need to tell them how many trucks. I need to tell them, you know, where they're going so they know how far away it is from the concrete plant. Obviously, I got to tell him the mix design, how fast I think we'll get it poured, so he knows when he'll get his concrete trucks back. So there's quite a bit involved when you're pouring concrete every day. If it's just once a week, it's not as bad. But when you're pouring 5 days a week, every single day of the season, basically for us, it's April to November. I mean, that's a lot of concrete to get scheduled. So I bull floated one way, opposite of the way we screeded, and now I'm just going back over it kind of twice, and that's just because, you know, we're gonna hand float this before we broom it, and the better the bull float jobs is, the easier this part is right here. So Darren can now just kind of, it's a little bit of a timing thing. I think he waited 20 to 30 minutes before he got on it with a funny float. But it makes this part of the job a lot easier if your bull float job is really good, and you know, he doesn't have to fill in any rock holes or big bull float ridges or anything like that. He just kind of glides that thing over it to work up the surface, smooth out the surface a little bit better, kind of like what I'm doing with the hand float right in front of you. And then once that's done, you know, we can pull the broom right over it as long as the timing of it is good and this mag float is good. We don't have to steel trowel this, we don't have to Fresno it to get a really good broom finish. You can mag float it if your timing's good. If we thought we was a little bit early here, then we would get it all mag floated like this, probably give it another 15-20 minutes, and then go right over it again real quick before we pull the broom. Now remember, we got air entrainment in here, so we're a little bit picky about how we finish the concrete with air entrainment because we don't want to trap any of that air right under the surface. Even though we're pulling a broom over it, we're still pretty careful about not using steel trowels or Fresnos. Just to be safe, if you do trap some air under this, and then obviously the concrete cures up with that trapped air under it, it kind of leaves a really weak surface area. And that area, I mean, it could be the size of a quarter, could be the size of your fist. That paste on there usually doesn't bond to the surface real good because there's air trapped under there, and then that just kind of eventually just breaks apart and flakes off, and that's where you start getting some surface delamination. So we found that just mag floating stuff doesn't seal up the surface, doesn't trap air, and you still get just as good a broom finish the way, you know, Luke's doing this right here, a really nice tight broom finish. And we don't have surface delamination problems. So we would look, we look at this once Luke pulls that broom the first time. You know, we look at it and say, what's the texture of that broom finish? Do we want it a little bit lighter? Is it too heavy? Is it rolling rocks, or does it look just right? You know, and that kind of determines if we keep going or not, or if we wait a few more minutes, or if we need to hurry up and, you know, if the concrete's too tight. But that doesn't usually happen. Usually the timing, because we do this so much, we're pretty good about the timing thing. So Darren's in the back on the other patio. You know, he's getting that all floated up. Remember, this is all the same truck, so this concrete's all setting up just about at the same time. So once we get this first one done, you know, that back one's set up just a little bit more than this first one because it was sitting there longer. So we're not necessarily having to hurry too much, but we just want to hustle and make sure that, you know, we get about the same looking type of broom finish on one side that we do on the other. And we're going to saw cut, you see the patio, the pool house slab, how we saw cut that. We're going to saw cut this the same way. This mix was pretty nice. As you can see, Luke's kind of magging it down that. We got a little trench drain right there. Nice and creamy and pasty on top. A lot of cream to work with. Not real bony or rocky. So that makes magging floating it out really nice. It also gives you a really nice kind of paste on the surface to broom finish. Leaves a really nice texture on the broom if it's like that. That took Darren, I don't know what it took him. It took him less than 10 minutes to get that all floated out, basically by hand like that. And then, you know, he's not having to do the edges because we go around and do the edges. But that was actually probably closer to 5 or 6 minutes for him to get that all floated out. With the right timing, that's good. If you're late on the timing with that, forget it. Then you got to get on it with skids or, you know, knee pads somehow and float it all out by hand. So the video for the pool patio will be coming up after this one. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you know, please hit the subscribe button. You can come back and watch this pool patio slab. It's pretty cool. Those are done quite differently, and you know, the timing on those is really critical because there's a lot to do there, a lot of handwork around those. But for the price, so to price this, you know, we're generally about $15 a square foot to do the concrete part. So the forming, like the wire, the concrete, the pouring, the finishing like this, you know, we got to saw it, we got to come back, you know, strip the forms, stuff like that, is generally about $15 a square foot. And the total price for everything here, even the pool patio, came to about $42,000 just for us to get here and do the concrete work. So let me know down in the comments what you think of that. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.